Hello everyone, it's been a little while since I've done a video. I'm actually shooting this quite late in the evening actually, after doing a little bit of research. So I wanted to show you this here. This is a sort of an astral map of the upcoming solar eclipse on June 21st, 2020. Now, for those of you that are interested in astrology, you've probably seen everyone is doing their eclipse videos. We had the lunar eclipse on the 5th of June, and this is the first solar eclipse of the season, coming at the middle of the year, exactly at the middle of the year on the solstice. Now, why is this significant? We have a lot of eclipses. Basically, the eclipses can vary anywhere between 2 to 4 a year, or as much as up to 6, and sometimes even 7. So this year we're actually having 6 eclipses in total. We had the eclipse which happened in the earlier part of June, on the 5th of June. We have the solar eclipse, which is what we're going to be talking about today, on the 21st of June. But then on the 5th of July, we actually have another eclipse, which is a lunar eclipse on the 5th of July. So this has been a very kind of busy season. As we would have seen, there's a lot that has happened since the last solar eclipse, which happened on the 25th of December, so Christmas Day. And that was giving like the portents of what was to happen for the next 6 months or so. So we've seen a lot of what has happened since then: COVID, lockdown, Black Lives Matter, all sorts of things. But going back here to this eclipse on June 21st, what I've done here, I've just made a big map of the sky so we can see what's going on. Basically, an eclipse, solar eclipse, forms when the sun and the moon are together and they are close to one of the nodes, which is here, the north node Rahu. So remember, I do sidereal astrology. So for those that are doing Western astrology, this eclipse is happening in Cancer. But for sidereal astrology, which is what I do, this is actually happening at 6 degrees 13 minutes of sidereal Gemini in the nakshatra of Mrigashira. Now, what does that mean? Mrigashira, so North Node, Rahu, Sun and Moon, all in Mrigashira. The nakshatra of Mrigashira is all about searching. It's all about movement. It's all about going on a quest. What is Gemini? Gemini is communication, isn't it? Our networks, people that we talk to, places where we gather to speak, movement, education, even things like traveling by car, etc. It tends to be more kind of localized travel, but it's all about communication. And part of this eclipse is planet Mercury here. That's the glyph for Mercury, just in case I don't want to affect the light balance too much because I'm doing this late at night. So Mercury is part of this eclipse. So this has got a lot to do with communication, a tremendous amount of communication. Of course, there's a lot to talk about in the world. Now, Mercury is in the nakshatra called Purnavasu, and Purnavasu means return of the light, but it also means to basically repeat things, to do things over and over again. So what is very interesting is I have looked at this eclipse, and we may also know that a certain Donald Trump, who I sometimes refer to as Baboon L'Orange, because this guy has just said some extraordinary stuff over the last few months, which has just taken people almost beyond belief. But these are extraordinary times. Now, what is interesting is that Mr. Trump is having one of his rallies. Now, as you know, we have a big thing going on with social distancing. Of course, economies around the world are trying to open back up. I made a prediction a few months ago that most of the restrictions would come to the end by the middle of July, once the sun broke the Kala Sarpa Yoga. I'll probably put a link actually to that video. I also talked about this upcoming eclipse as well in my interview with Inspired Stage with Shay Allie. And I'll put a link to that video in the description below as well so you can see. But why is this important? Well, Trump is going to a place called Tulsa in Oklahoma. Now, Tulsa in Oklahoma has gone down in history as having some of the worst race riots that ever happened. So it was called the Massacre of Black Wall Street. And it was essentially a very affluent, very profitable part of town for the black residents there. And it basically got attacked. And between 300 and 400 people, black people, were killed, massacred. And it has been one of the biggest race riots that has ever happened. So you can see in these sensitive times of Black Lives Matter, which is, of course, is a global movement going around the world, this is a very contentious place for Trump to hold his rally, which, of course, has sparked the passions. A lot of people are talking about it. It seems a lot of people want to attend. Many residents, many black residents of Tulsa, Oklahoma, say it's not changed since 1921. So this is really quite flammable. This is really quite a controversial place to hold a rally. So I'll leave you to draw your own conclusions about why Trump has chosen this place, especially so close to the anniversary of the massacre, which happened on the 31st of May and the 1st of June 1921 in Tulsa, so not that far away. And it's also very close to the day on the 19th of June, which is when slavery was basically abolished in the United States. He was told not to do it on that day. He's taken that advice, but he's now doing it on the 20th. So this is just the day before the eclipse, but really it's actually very close, because the eclipse energy really starts kicking in a week to 2 weeks before the main event. So to have this event just before the eclipse is very significant. Now, what I want you to see here is that we've got Mars here in sidereal Pisces, and it is casting a square to where this eclipse happens. Now, squares tend to be very difficult aspects. They're very activating. They're very agitating aspects. They cause friction and they cause conflict. On top of that, Mars is actually conjunct Neptune. Although Neptune is in the next house, Neptune is at 26 degrees 49 minutes of Aquarius, and Mars will be at 1 degree 40 minutes by the time of the eclipse. But at the moment, they're in the same house. They're conjunct. Now, they say when Mars, so Neptune is secrets, mysteries. It's empathy. It is the revelations of certain things. It can bring certain controversies up. It's also known as the planet of scandal, as Joni Petrie would say, who is a very famous astrologer. So even though they're going to be in separate houses at the time of the eclipse, they're still going to be conjunct, because they're around about 5 degrees apart, almost exactly, and that's still considered a very tight orb in astrology. Now, part of the problem with this eclipse, I mean, not that we've had enough drama as it is already. You'll see here I have put certain stars in place to kind of show what this eclipse is uniting with. So Mars is going to be with this star here, which is in the constellation of Pegasus at 4 degrees 22 minutes. This star is called Scheat. If you say that word quicker, you will understand what that star means for astrologers. It is a very difficult star. I'd love to be giving kind of beautiful flowery news about this, you know, news as flamboyant as my shirt, but unfortunately it's not an easy star. So the things that this star is associated with, it's associated with issues around floods, storms and accidents by air and also by drowning. So not great, but so it's in the constellation of Pegasus. So the nature of it is Mars and Mercury combined, but Mars in particular, so it already has a martial aspect to it, and it can cause extreme misfortune. Yeah, even murder, suicide and drowning. Now that is very dramatic, and I know you're probably thinking, oh my goodness, what a thing to hear. But it is the case. So we've got Mars, the planet of energy, the planet of war, conjunct this very malefic star. There is possible to have the positive aspects of it, but it's not normally a good sign when you see a planet conjunct with that star in either a chart or on a major event. But to marry that, the sun and the moon, the eclipse, is actually happening by these two stars. This star here is called Betelgeuse, yes, just like the movie, and that is at 3 degrees 45 minutes of sidereal Gemini in Mrigashira. And the other star here is called I've got to say this right, Menkalinan. Sorry, tricky one. Sometimes they have a very interesting names. So it's a star that is associated with leadership, but also with violence as well, violence and death. Betelgeuse is in the constellation of Orion, and it also has the nature of Mars. So it can also mean violent storms, much rain. It's said not to be very good for cattle. It can produce courage, but also arrogance, impiety, violence, self-confidence and treachery. So that is very challenging energy, as you can imagine, by anyone's estimations. And that is where this eclipse is happening, with Mars contributing his kind of aggressive stuff on that. On top of that as well, Mars is aspecting the 6th house of the natural zodiac and the 7th. So the 6th house deals with, can also deal with accidents and just tricky situations, conflicts as well. The 7th house also deals with the public and people, and it's looking there. Also as well, the south node of the moon, which is opposite, is also looking at the planet Uranus, which is, it's a planet of kind of shocks and surprises. And Uranus at the moment is in sidereal Aries, which is in the nakshatra Bharani, which means labor pains. So you see, when you look at all of these factors coming together, it's not looking so hot, especially as Neptune here is in the nakshatra of Purva Bhadrapada, which is the earlier feet of the funeral cot, if I remember correctly. So this rally, what I am seeing here is, so I was just looking for some particular notes. This rally, I think, is going to be very significant, and it could be extremely contentious as well. There could be real challenges with this rally and the eclipse with what it's triggering. So this is solar eclipses take effect, you know, they can take effect around the time of the eclipse, but they also tend to extend for months ahead. So we'll be seeing these kind of themes play out over the next 6 months, or at the very least until the next solar eclipse, which is happening on the December 14th. I'll make a video about that. So, you know, it's very tricky. We also have Mars aspecting. We also have Saturn aspecting Mars on this, and then Saturn as aspecting the 4th house, which is to do with the homeland, and it's also aspecting the 7th house, which deals as well with the people. and just anything that is opposite you as an individual. So this is a very public house as well. So when you put all of that together, this is a very kind of dynamic and testing solar eclipse, but it is also a time for opportunity. But I think what we're going to see, we're going to see lots of rallies, of course, more things like that. We're going to see more protests. It is very likely that this rally, which of course is, you know, a gathering of people, Gemini, sharing information, which is of course what rallies are about, sending a message. We could see maybe Trump say some quite controversial things in this rally. He has a talent for it anyway, but stuff he says now could be particularly impactful, shall we say. I mean, there's no guarantee. You never know. He might speak peace and togetherness. One would hope, but with these alignments, I would say that is unlikely. So there is a very good chance he might say things that are flammable. I also worry as well, there could be a chance that there could be some unrest at this rally. It will certainly be of extremely heightened passion. And I think it's also going to be very revealing what happens, because it is so close to that eclipse. And Trump has, in sidereal astrology, he's got his Mercury in Ardra, which is in the constellation of Gemini, where this eclipse is happening. So there could be something very dramatic that comes out of his mouth, or there could be very dramatic consequences that happen based on something that he says at this rally. So the communication side is very, very emphasized. It's likely to be quite combative. It's likely to be quite jingoistic, I would imagine it. He might really kind of rattle the people up, you know, really get them going. He knows that his poll ratings are struggling, so he's going to want to kind of consolidate his base, not to make this or just about Trump, but the fact that it's happened so close to this solar eclipse, and we see so much of the dramas that are going on in America right now. Also as well, at that time, the transiting moon, which I've put here, is going to be right over Donald Trump's sun. So likely at the time when he's speaking. So this, in a way, he's almost going to be having a little mini eclipse of his own. But there is a strong signatures here for violence of some kind. Let's hope there isn't any violence at the rally, or people's lives may be endangered. But it's very inauspicious. It's a very inauspicious time for him to be holding this rally, and I think a lot of people know that. Let's just see what happens. But of course, at the moment, the United States is very much a focus of everyone's attention. But globally, this shows going forward that, you know, there's likely to be more unrest, but people are prepared to fight the good fight. People are standing up for stuff that really matters, as we've seen, you know, with the recent news, with Black Lives Matters, but also other matters as well. We still have Hong Kong. We still, today in today's news, we saw that there was a bit of a spat, between India and China. That's very interesting on that border there. I think it was with the border of Kashmir. That's very interesting and quite unexpected. That could potentially escalate a little bit further. It's going to be interesting for China in general as well, because part of the shadow of the eclipse goes through China. There could be some news as well on Africa and the Middle East. But these times, they're challenging, so we have to be cautious. But we also need to understand that this is a time where people are seeing the truth, secrets are being revealed, and people are starting to become aware of some of the things that are happening in the world. Eclipses, when the moon or the sun are eclipsed, but particularly the sun, things come out of the shadows. That's essentially what the energy of eclipses are. Can be very transformative, particularly if you have planets near an eclipse, but they can also bring positive changes as well, twists of fate and fortune. So they shouldn't be feared all the time. We shouldn't place too much on them. However, this eclipse is very potent. It is very close to the nodes. It's literally like within 1 degree. The sun is at 6 degrees 13 minutes, and Rahu, the north node, which brings in new things, is at 4 degrees 58 minutes, which is basically 5 degrees. So they're with it, you know, they're really close. They're really close together. However, just to kind of try and wrap up on a more positive note, as we see, the world is going through a lot of changes right now. This is a very spiritualizing time for everyone. This is the time for people to take chances. Maybe not necessarily start a new business venture, especially so close to the eclipse and with so many planets going retrograde, because we will have Mercury retrograde, we will have, so Mercury retrograde, Venus retrograde, we've got Saturn retrograde, we've got Jupiter retrograde, and also Pluto. So that is a lot of backwards energy, of reviewing energy. But this is the time to review. This is the time to re-examine one's beliefs, because the opposite house to the third house is the ninth, which is about our beliefs, our practices, our teachings. So we really need to look at our values, essentially, and be very careful about what we say to people, how we react, because these energies are very high, they're very volatile, so it's important to stay calm. But also as well to review your plans, anything that you're thinking of taking forward. Say if you are thinking of launching a new business or you're looking for new work. In September, almost all these planets will be direct again. I think they're all direct actually in September. So that's going to be that, or late September, 29th of September for Saturn, and then, you know, we should all be good. So that is when things will start moving forward again. We may also see, there could also be a bit of a return of the virus, particularly in America, because if you imagine, they've not quite yet got things under control, and they are expecting thousands to come to this rally. Apparently the Republicans are saying there's been over 1 million people that RSVP'd. So they're looking at extending to another venue, and they will not be practicing social distancing. So think what the consequences of that could be in 3-4 weeks down the line. Maybe sort of like July, August time, you know, we could be seeing some very interesting stuff happening there in regards to the coronavirus, which would then feed in, of course, to potentially civil unrest, etc. You know, who knows? But there's more to come out of this very tumultuous and testing, but yet spiritualizing and backbone building year. So just remember that. So remember your spiritual practice. This is a great time. A lot of people are praying more than ever. A lot of people are going back to ancient, you know, people going back to the Bible even, and reading, you know, reading up on stuff. You know, people are reflecting and looking at the future. So much change to come. I wish it could have been a little bit more upbeat, but as astrologers, we are here to communicate the truth to people and help people adjust and make sense of everything. So I hope you enjoyed that. I'll put some links below to previous interviews that I've done. If anyone would like a consultation with me where we can look at your finance, or it could be romance, or I offer something where I combine astrology with the archetypes, the Jungian archetypes, and we lay those out with cards and we see what's going on with your chart and also with your psychology. It's immensely popular and very, very insightful. So I highly recommend that. You can go to my website, which is the archetypalblueprint.com. And you can also find me on social media. Just follow the links in the description of the video. So more tests ahead, but hold the light, hold your faith, be mindful of what you say to people, but also as well open the heart and have empathy. And people are really now trying to fight the good fight based on the knowledge and the truth that is coming out at these times. So thanks again so much, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you.